Hey everybody. Didn't really change anything, did it? There we go. How's everybody doing? Pretty bright. How's everybody doing? I am so pale. I've got a studio light on right now, and it's on the very lowest setting. Oh man, 'tis life. How's everybody doing on this? It is Monday, right? Monday. Auburn dropped 2 spots, number 12 in the AP poll. Not unexpected. Um, I'll say this: they could they could drop a lot more, but I don't know if they'll necessarily rise a lot here over these last 4 games of the season. The, you know, road games at Florida and Arkansas, if they win those, could certainly improve Auburn's seeding. But as it stands now, Auburn, um, if it wins out, there's a possibility it could move up to a 1 seed, depending on what happens above them again. But the big news right now, of course, is Anthony McLemore is out for the season. Auburn's rotation is down to 8 men. What do they do to combat that? How do they get a center in there that could produce like Anthony McLemore did? I mean, this guy, if you look at the KenPom.com ratings, he was, I believe, number 3 in the nation in block percentage as far as amount of minutes, defensive minutes he was on the floor. Just can't replicate that. So Horace Spencer is not that type of player. We all know that. Horace Spencer has gotten in foul trouble quite a bit in his history at Auburn. And so what they're going to have to do is kind of what they did in the second half against South Carolina is ask Horace Spencer to kind of play within himself, just do what he can, grab rebounds, get some putbacks if he can, and then get Chuma Okeke in there to kind of be more of a guy that maybe slashes to the basket when needed. Maybe isn't necessarily a post-up guy. Well, Auburn hasn't really had a post-up guy all season, but you know what I mean. So those two are just really going to have to pick up the slack. I think Auburn will be fine in the interim, especially at home against Alabama. I think if Auburn wants to win the SEC title, which obviously they do, in my opinion, Wednesday's a must-win against Alabama. Because if you lose that game, you set yourself up in bad shape going on the road to Arkansas and Florida, where Auburn right now would be an underdog. And you're setting yourself up for a 4-game losing streak, and to the point where you would have potentially 6 SEC losses heading into the regular season finale, which would mean at that point you would have to beat South Carolina, and you would need Tennessee to finish at best for Tennessee 3-1 to win the SEC. And Tennessee's schedule is pretty easy down the stretch. Tennessee only has 1 game remaining in its 4 games against one of the top, I believe, 8 teams in the SEC. So Auburn, meanwhile, has 3 games against teams in the top 8 of the SEC. Auburn's got a tough road ahead of it, and that was before Anthony McLemore went down with injury, and obviously before they lost at South Carolina. So both of those things compound the situation. But Auburn's number 2 in the SEC as it stands right now, Auburn is number 1 in the SEC right now with a 2-game lead. So they got some room to maneuver. They just don't have as much room as they could have had if they had come back against South Carolina. And they certainly had a chance. I mean, they had a lot of fight. I mean, they were down 26 points but managed to get within 5. And then After that, they missed their like last 4 to 5 shots, something like that. Hit a couple of those, all of a sudden Auburn's maybe up or tied, or with down one, and it's a different game. So Wednesday's gonna be interesting against Alabama and what Auburn can do with an 8-man rotation. So I'll take any questions you guys might have. Usually, you guys can join me. I've started doing more periscopes at night now for Auburn, hashtag Auburn After Dark, late at night. Not a lot of people join us, but it's much more popular during the football season. But football's coming back here in, goodness, less than 2 weeks, March 1st, for spring practice. So some questions, guys. Shoot me some questions. Kid Kanda asks, why is the Charles Barkley statue so skinny? Well, he wasn't really all that chunky in college, if you remember. Actually, they had a temporary statue up, and then they actually put the permanent one up for the Texas A&M game a couple weeks ago. And the reason why there was a temporary statue is because we were told by a couple people that Charles wasn't happy with the way his face looked on the statue, so they had to go redo it, and they put the permanent one up. I think it looks cool. It's doing what he does best, going high, skying high for a rebound or put back, and I like the little design at the bottom where it looks like the hardwood is exploding underneath him as he's jumping up. It's pretty cool. But if you want to look at the scenarios for Auburn to win the SEC title, I put up a story kind of explaining things yesterday up at auburn.247sports.com. Just go there and click the More tab, I think. When you scroll down through the stories, you'll see it. And we also have a post up today just explaining Auburn's chances in each remaining game according to KenPom.com, ESPN's Basketball Power Index, and Live RPI, which is real RPI wizard. Right now, Auburn is a unanimous winner according to the computers in 2 games, which if they won 2 games, they would win the SEC title. But it's tough, much different than it was obviously going into this past Saturday. Dr. Prestridge, I can't see, ask, are they probable for Nashville regardless of how they finish? I don't understand. Who's probable for Nashville? What do you mean? Are they probable for Nashville? I don't get that question. I mean, I could take that any other way. If you're talking about Anthony McLemore, he's not probable at all. He's out for the year. But I don't know what you mean by that question. Feel free to ask it again. Got any questions? Type them away here on Periscope or YouTube. Nashville. I got you. Are they probable for Nashville in the NCAA tournament? Yeah, probably. If they're a 2 seed, yes. They fall below a 2 seed, I don't know. They go anywhere. They can be shipped off anywhere. I think it's very important as far as just travel for Auburn to get that 2 seed or a 1 seed. Because I think if they fall to a 3, they won't be going to Nashville. At least I don't think they will. But I could be wrong. Are they recruiting 2 bigs for basketball, or do they think Wiley and Purefoy? I guess you finished that, but no, they're not really recruiting all that hard right now. Interestingly, since this NCAA, but FBI stuff popped up, they haven't really been going after folks. I guess the big question is just going to be, does Wiley go to the NBA draft? I don't think the big question is around Purefoy right now. I think the big question is Wiley. Wiley's going to test it out, but if he does not go to the NBA draft, they're fine because he'll be eligible next season, unless something else pops up. Jack says, no way Auburn makes a tournament run without the top shot blocker. Is a huge loss. Yeah, I mean, I somewhat agree. This was a team that I thought one could get to the second weekend, which meant Sweet 16, and then maybe make some noise once they got there. But as it stands now, without Macklemore, I just don't. I don't see them making it past the Sweet 16. But I don't know. I mean, to be quite honest, a lot of us counted out this team or had our big time doubts whether they could make it the postseason either way when we all got the news that Austin Wiley and D'Angelo Purifoy was going to be out. So we'll see. Any chance Pat Kime gets in the rotation? Asked Mac. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I don't think that is happening. Do not see that. If Wiley returns next year, Auburn should be a top 5 team. They'll be top 15, top 10 in the preseason. I don't think they'll be top 5. They could be top 5 as the season progresses, but I think they're a legitimate top 15 team going into the preseason. Then you also have that question about Mustafa Heron, whether he stays. He actually kind of thought about leaving after last season, which was just confusing to me. But apparently he was seriously thinking about leaving after last season. So you got to consider that too. But yeah, if Wiley comes back and is eligible as they expect, and they have all these pieces coming back, including Anthony McLemore, Bryce Brown, Jared Harper, yeah, top 15 team. Ethan asked for my score prediction for the Alabama game. I don't really have one right now, but I'd say Auburn wins. But they can't start slow in the game, even at home. They just can't start slow. They've had back-to-back games where they've started slow now. Against Kentucky, obviously. And then, of course, at South Carolina, which was their worst start all season. They have got to start not necessarily fast or hot. Everybody says that. They have to start fast. They have to start hot. No, they just got to, they got to hit some shots. Don't fall behind, 20 to 6 to start the game or something like that. Just hit a few shots. Because Auburn is going to get hot at some point. Even Saturday against South Carolina, they got hot, obviously, and got within 5. It's just that you can't start real slow and then be playing catch-up for 3/4 of the game. McBay asks or says, he weighs in and says, is it just me or is everyone making a big deal of the loss Saturday? They shot awful from threes. I mean, it was a bad loss from an RPI standpoint and obviously with the SEC championship hunt, but they got some help because the 4 teams underneath them lost also on Saturday. But, yeah, they if they hit more threes, they win that game, even with the big deficit and Anthony going down. Let's not forget, Carolina's not good. They had lost 6 straight games going into that game. So it wasn't like Auburn was facing Kentucky again. I know Kentucky's lost 3 straight, had lost 3 straight going into that game. But Kentucky's much more talented than South Carolina. Ethan says Chuma Okeke will really have to step up with Horse's limited offensive skill set. Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. You're almost going to have to, split those 20 minutes that, Anthony was really getting in each game that were really productive, with Horace kind of being the defensive guy, getting rebounds, and Chuma being the offensive machine. The problem with that is that teams can zero in on, well, Chuma's in, so we know he's not really going to be a defensive threat. And, Horace is in. We know he's really not going to be an offensive threat. To counter that, you hope that they could be both be good offensive threats from the standpoint that they'd be good at getting rebounds and putbacks, or getting rebounds and feeding and dishing back out to reset the offense, or find an open man for a jump shot, or finding an open man even slashing to the basket and pushing it out to, not pushing it out to them, but giving them a short pass as they drive by and suck in the defense. So that's how you counterbalance that. Otherwise, they're going to be very one-dimensional, and teams are going to be able to figure that out and adjust, especially after this week, or even after, I should say, this game against Alabama. So we'll see. We will see. I've been having just on a personal note as we questions kind of slow down. Anybody want to more questions? Feel free to weigh in. You ask basketball. We talk about anything about bracketology, the rankings, football, or anything. Been having a lot of dreams about football, covering football. As a reporter, I guess I have a lot of dreams about like missing deadline or not being able to file a story for whatever reason. So it always freaks me out. I don't know why. I'm always running around a stadium like trying to find a computer. It's very strange. Mac asks, what are my thoughts on the Pete Thamel report on Bruce Pearl? Does Pete Thamel have a report on Bruce Pearl? I don't think he did, does he? I think he had a general report on how college basketball is going to be nuked and everything's over and the world's over. He had a report that was more or less half of the top 16 seeds or whatever are involved, and with some of the stuff the FBI discovered. He didn't mention Auburn specifically or singled them out. We'll see. I mean, Pete Thamel's a good reporter, good writer, but he also mixes in a lot of hyperbole with this reporting. I'll just say that. He's always looking to he's trying to provide a sense of what the worst case could be in every story he writes, as far as this is how far-reaching something could be. And then everybody takes that as fact, when in fact he writes around it and such, where here's what one person thinks. Oh, this could UT Chattanooga could be a 1 seed by March. Well, that's not happening, but you know what I mean. And let's not sit here and act like amateur athletics is all innocent and no one cheats. Everything's dirty, guys. B. Foley says it's an orange out Wednesday at Auburn Arena. Yeah, I don't know. I trust you there, though. SEC tournament prediction. Auburn will go in as a top 4 seed and get a bye. I don't see Auburn winning the SEC tournament. I like either Kentucky in the SEC tournament or let's see, Tennessee. One of those two. Ob Martin asks, when's the basketball investigation going to be over? There's no timetable. There's no way of telling, to be quite honest. Anybody that acts like they know what's going on, they don't. I'm just tell you that right now, because even the investigators, the internal investigators, don't know, because they got to sit down with Bruce Pearl first, and the NCAA's got to get involved and weigh in on things and present things and start asking questions. When does that happen? Could be any time after the season, but I don't think it's going to happen until after the season. And Bruce Pearl sits down with them. Now, I do believe Bruce Pearl will talk to the internal investigators for Auburn before the NCAA, if the NCAA doesn't drag its feet or anything like that. But when does the investigation end? I don't. No one knows. Especially if the FBI is not going to cooperate with the NCAA, because why would the FBI cooperate with the NCAA? They're doing their own thing, their own investigation. So when will it end? I don't know. The key is Bruce Pearl cooperates and answers all the questions and does so truthfully. Because his big thing, as we all remember, when he was at Tennessee, when he was speaking to NCAA investigators, he lied to them, thinking he'd get away with something very small, but they found out he lied to them, and just that one little lie got him a show cause. It wasn't like he was buying players or paying for players or anything like that. He just made one. He lied, and the NCAA does not put up with being lied to. So can't lie. Don't lie. But the other little thing that weaves into this is that the FBI investigation involves Chuck Person funneling money to 2, Auburn basketball players. Did Bruce Pearl know about that? That's the big question. Also, what's going on with the two staff members outside of Chuck Person who was fired, but Jordan Verhulst and Frankie Sullivan that were suspended and put on indefinite leave, and Auburn has not really communicated with them as far as what their futures hold and why they've been put on leave. So what's going on there? What do they discover there? Does that tie to Bruce Pearl at all? It's been very quiet on that end, and for good reason. Auburn's keeping everything in house because they start leaking things out like that, it'll mess up their own investigation. So next few months will be very interesting. Timeline as far as when that ends, no one could tell you. We'll get a better idea, I'll say, when the season ends. We start hearing Bruce Pearl or other staff members are talking to Auburn, but until then, it's anybody's guess. And I know you don't want to hear that, but that's just the truth. And that's just how it is. We'll see. But the number one thing is Bruce Pearl and his staff members or anybody who's talked to or interviewed by Auburn or the NCAA, they just got to tell the truth. It's as simple as that. Any other questions? I'll take maybe one or two more, and I'm on jet. Today at auburn.247sports.com or auburnundercover.com, I'm doing Ask Me Anything, AMA, Ask Marcello Anything on the message board. If you're a VIP member, you can head over there and ask me any questions you might have. On the message board, several stories are up as well. I'm continuing our position-by-position preview for spring football today. I think I'm doing offensive tackles, and I don't know what defensive position I'm doing today. I can't remember. But a couple of football position previews going up later today. So keep an eye out on that. Any other questions? Bueller? Anything? Bueller? A reminder, we're also broadcasting this on my YouTube page if you want to check it out. It is, I don't know what the URL is. Search for Brandon Marcello on YouTube if you want to follow me on YouTube. I guess that's the best thing I could say. All right, Dr. Payne asks, Joey Gatewood a possible challenge for Malik Willis, or Stidham got locked up? Well, yeah. Well, Jarrett Stidham's a starter and will be the starter next season unless he gets injured or something. I think the competition between Malik Willis, the returning sophomore, and the newcomer Joey Gatewood will be interesting this spring. They will get the majority of the snaps. My question is do they split first-team reps, or is Malik Willis working with the first team and Joey Gatewood's working with the second or third team? Usually in the past, judging by the past, Gus Malzahn, when he gets a newcomer, especially at quarterback, they start off at the very bottom of the depth chart and they have to work their way up. So that might be the case, especially the first 4 or 5 practices before they break for spring break for 12 days. But I suspect by the end of spring practice, Malik Willis and Joey Gatewood will be splitting some first-team reps. Can Joey Gatewood unseat Malik Willis as a second-team quarterback? Sure, but I don't think it'll happen in the spring. I don't think anything like that will happen until August once they start practicing a little bit more and Gatewood's been more involved in the system. With that said, my prediction is going to be my prediction is going to be that Malik Willis remains the number 2 quarterback, and possibly going into next season, this is way far off, maybe you see more packages for Malik Willis to play some more in games, even with Jarrett Stidham as a starter. With that said, I think Malik Willis and Joey Gatewood, they'll go after it, especially in the second half of spring practices. You'll see them at A-Day kind of show off and show what they're capable of. But outside that, I don't think you're going to see after the spring, hey, Joey Gatewood's the number 2 quarterback. I think Malik Willis will still be the number 2 guy. And then going into the August and summer months, then in August when they start preseason camp, that's when they'll quote-unquote, actually start competing for the backup job. But Jarrett Stidham's going to be the starter. There's no question in my mind about that. They're not going to change that up. He's the first 3,000-yard passer to ever return to Auburn for a second season. No reason to change that up. Do they add more Malik Willis in there, though, in some packages? Maybe it's a Wildcat option? Possible. How far do I think Auburn can go in the tourney now without McLemore? Ethan asked. Ethan, I kind of hit on this earlier, and this will be our last question. I think they're a second weekend team. They can reach the Sweet 16, but their depth, they just got to get. They don't have the depth. They don't have that shot blocker. And I think he's kind of a 10-point swing in some games based off of how he plays, because of one, the rebounding, the blocks, and then also some of the baskets he makes. Can Horace Spencer and Chumu Okiki make up for those 10 points in their own ways? I don't know if they can consistently, but can they at least make up more than half of that? Sure, and that's probably enough for this team at this point. But it's going to be tough, especially with 2 road games coming up at Florida and at Arkansas. Auburn will not be favored in those games, and that's why, as I said earlier, it's very crucial Auburn wins Wednesday against Alabama, so they have some room for error with only one more win needed to win the SEC title. And they could win it without, winning 2 games, but that's the only way that you're assured of winning it as it stands today in the standings. And then that leaves South Carolina at the end of the season at home for Auburn, which Auburn will be favored in, of course, at home, even though they just lost, of course, to South Carolina. So how do they do in the NCAA tournament without Anthony McLemore? I just don't know if they've got the depth to go beyond like the Sweet 16. I don't see it, but depends on the draw too, guys. It depends. And let's see how this team plays now without McLemore. We saw it in the second half, of course, against Carolina, but let's see it for a full game and what their game plan is and how they go about attacking teams with Horace Spencer and Chumo Okiki in the front court instead of Anthony McLemore. So anyway, thanks for joining me, everybody. I really appreciate it. Go to auburnundercover.com for full coverage. Make sure you go and subscribe. Get all the VIP intel you can muster. All at auburnundercover.com and auburn.247sports.com. And, of course, I'm on Twitter at bmarcello. Thanks, everybody. We'll try to do some late-night periscopes later this week for #Auburn After Dark. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your Monday as you start the work week. May your work week go by quickly. Thanks.